All right, welcome back everybody to another H&K video game experience. This week is going to be our 16th episode. So me and Kleer decided to give you guys a little bit of something we called 16-Bit Memories. So we just want to chop up kind of our memories with the Super NES, because I was a Super NES guy, he was a Genesis guy. So thought that'd be a pretty cool thing to do and see what we kind of get into and see where that takes us. But anyway, what's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I'm just trying to stay warm.
Yeah? 19 degrees?
Well, right now we are creeping in Mississippi. Good old Mississippi. We got, let me refresh my temp gauge here. We're sitting right at 21 right now. Our wind chill this morning was a good old -2.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And this is Mississippi, and I'm in central Mississippi, so if you know Mississippi very much, we don't do cold weather very well. So we've had our snowpocalypse 2018 this year. So we're kind of tripping out. It's actually the second snow of this winter. We actually got snow back in December. We actually at my new house we got like over 6 inches of snow. It was pretty wild. So
and just to show you, I called Kleer this morning to kind of talk about the podcast, and he's like, "What's up, man?" And just talking. And I said, "Where are you, dude?" He's like, "I'm at home." So it snowed. No work, no play. I mean, no. Yes, that's
no
play.
Nothing,
all
man.
Play. Like you didn't go outside at all.
I wish it was play. No, man, it's too cold, dude. Like
sitting inside.
So, like the snow when it hit back in December, you know, the wind wasn't too bad. We could go out and play in it a little bit. I took my son out and we played in it a little bit. Today, man, dude, I just stayed under the blankets. It was cold. It was just unreal cold. Like I don't even remember it ever being this cold when we were growing up. So it's just wild. So
that's what video games are for, man. Did you get to play any today?
No, I was with the wife, so we actually got to spend a little quality time. So that was nice to actually
behaving.
No, the kid is at the grandparents. So
I know that's
he was
nice.
There.
I don't
so
get that luxury.
Yeah, we got the luxury of no kid and just me and her. So we did a little bit around the Brandon house and spent some time together, so that was nice to have that. But I did play. You're gonna laugh. I played a little Destiny too, just a little while ago.
I could have told you that. I could have told you that.
They're doing
they
the
fixed
faction
it though,
right.
didn't they?
Yeah, right.
I gotta pick every time Destiny 2 is mentioned. There's some smart aleck comment in my brain.
Oh no! Trust me, it is too. Like when I jump on, it's like, why am I even doing this? Why am I torturing myself with this? But they got the faction rallies going, and I'm a New Monarchy fan now, and so I was like, let me jump on here, pledge my allegiance, and pick up my Ingrams, and do a couple things to try to get they've got new ornaments for the New Monarchy gear, which is, I think it's kind of crappy that they're playing it like that. You know, it's just like, you know, instead of giving you new armor for a new faction rally for a new season, we're going to give you ornaments for the armor that you already have. So you have to do these things to get these ornaments. And I'm like, so you're just telling me I'm going to have quote-unquote new armor, but it's not new armor. It just makes the old armor look different. It's just, I'm just kind of like, And then also, too, I found out, too, I guess this is a little bit of news, and it just happens to be Destiny 2 related. You know how usually whenever they put out a new faction rally or they do a new Iron Banner, they have new weapons and things like that. Well, they have actually not released any new weapons for the faction rally this time. And I'm like, so you're having this new faction rally in this new season, and there's nothing new.
I bet they had them in there, and then they were going to put them behind the paywall or make them come out of loot boxes, and they were like, nah, we're going to catch too much heat, so we take them out altogether and act like we didn't have them.
Now they might have thought about that, from what I was reading is what they're doing is they're releasing 3 new auto rifles for each faction. The funny thing is that's the reward if the faction wins the faction rally. So that means 2 of the 3 factions will not have a new weapon at the end of the faction rally. So you're not even getting a new gun at the beginning of the faction rally or halfway through. You have the chance to get 1 gun for 1 faction out of the 3 factions that you can have a faction rally. Bungie's really just, they're really missing the mark here. And I really hate to beat them again for it, but it's an oversight on their part where they could have released new stuff. I hear people getting the sword that was in the faction rallies from the past season, but I can't count that as a new weapon because that was in a previous one. Now it is a new attainable one that you can attain through packages through the faction rally, but still, it's just they're shooting themselves in the foot. And two, when you go to your faction leader, whether it be Dead Orbit, New Monarchy, or Future War Cult, you can actually buy the armor from the previous faction rallies from the previous season. The only problem is you have to open up so many packages to buy each one. You can't just go buy it with tokens and legendary shards. You have to have opened so many packages to open each one. It's like 2, 4, 6, 8. It's ridiculous. It's like, why don't you just allow us to be able to buy it if we want to buy it, versus having to rank up and then be able to buy it? It's just, they're shooting themselves in the foot, and the only reason why I'm playing it is because I've already paid for all of it, and I've paid for all the way through Expansion 2, and so I'll play all the way through Expansion 2. Honestly, seriously, I'm considering not getting whatever they release in the fall. Like, I'm hard considering it. I'm a diehard Destiny fan, that, and for me to say that, to not even play it in the fall and basically be done with Destiny after that, that's a big deal. So there's a good possibility that I won't even buy.
Well, I heard the new one, they make you got like lives, like you got like 3 lives, and then on your 4th death, you either have to wait an hour to come back, or you have to pay 99 cents. Something like that. I wouldn't put it past Bungie and Activision to do that kind of junk.
But
I'm waiting for you to get to where you finish a faction rally or whatever, and a raid, and you get your Vex Mythoclast. I'm talking Destiny 1 old school weapons now. Boom, there's your Vex Mythoclast, but it's locked in your inventory until you pay $5, then you can start playing with it.
Oh, no,
something like that.
It's going to be... Bungie and Activision are going to figure out a way to bring the arcade coin-operated to console. They are going to do it. It's just going to happen because that's the way it's going, and that's going to ruin gaming once they do that. But they're going to eventually do it. Like you said, you only got a certain many lives, and then you got to wait an hour to play. No, it's going to be, okay, you get 3 lives.
A 25-cent thing on the controller. You put a quarter in the controller.
When you die, instead of the share button, it's going to be drop a quarter from your PSN account into here to continue playing. It's going to be like the Ninja Turtle arcade game that we used to have in Pizza Hut back in Forest.
It'll be a button on your controller,
and you got the countdown, and then once the countdown happens, it's game over. You got to start all the way over again. It's going to be crazy like that.
It's like if you push this, it's 1 Destiny token, but it's actually like 50 cents. All you got to do is push it, and you don't even think about it.
Yeah,
and it just pushes. But that reminds me, what have you heard about? Weren't they trying to do a thing to where on multiplayer it was some way that you have to pay to win on multiplayer? Not necessarily pay to win, but there's some way to make microtransactions or some kind of thing in multiplayer. You mentioned it on a podcast previously, and I can't remember. And I heard that too. They are doing something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember, and right now my brain's fuzzy because, like I've said, I've been dealing with ice and snow. I've had family without water because pipes have been freezing, and that's what we've had to deal with over here. So I don't remember that. A little foggy on some of that. I'll try to look that up and actually have that for us next time we talk, because I do vaguely remember it, but I don't remember exactly the details that I had on that.
Yeah, maybe nobody. I don't think it's like solidified, but I think it came out like in a public announcement, like, hey, we are finding a way to make more money in the multiplayer part of it or whatever.
I wouldn't put it past anybody for that right now, because it's just rampant, them trying to do those kind of things. I know that EA and BioWare are having a hard time and are actually starting to lose some steam on Anthem, that's supposed to be the quote-unquote Destiny killer like the Division was.
Yeah, of course, because of all the crap that went down with them.
Yeah, if Anthem is done right and they don't put in the microtransactions, which... I guess here's another little tidbit of news that if y'all didn't know, and if I haven't said this before in a previous podcast, Anthem is actually reworking the game because they had microtransactions in the game, and it was kind of a big part of the game having that in there, and so they're reworking the game to try to pull some of that out so they don't get blasted when they drop it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Right now, they don't even have a confirmed release date. As far as I know, it's going to be fall of 2018 this year. It might be pushed into maybe January to March of 2019. I think Anthem is going to get pushed back.
Yeah, they got to redo the whole game.
Well, until they get some of the heat until some of the heat dies down about microtransactions, I don't think that any game that's based on microtransactions or that had a large chunk of it in microtransactions should be released. I think they need to rework the game and pull those out. But we'll see how that goes, and hopefully you listeners out there can push this out and get other people listening to this, because if you can, then that's great, because the more voices we can have saying that kind of thing, the more it's going to affect the gaming community, and we've got to be a voice for the gaming community to kind of fix those kind of things. Otherwise, companies like Activision, EA are going to take advantage of us and push in those microtransactions in the game, because honestly, it wasn't Bungie pushing that. It was Activision pushing those microtransactions, and Bungie's like, okay, let's make some money, you know? I mean, right now, the only way I feel like a microtransaction can work is the way they've done it in Overwatch, which, I mean, you got to look at the money they raked in, and it's purely cosmetic. It's just purely cosmetic for them.
We're pretty vocal with the Battlefront, so I mean, it's not even going to. It's not even if it dies down, it doesn't matter. If you drop something like that again, it's going to be done with. And Anthem, I don't know what their little plan is. I'm sure it's going to be some similar form to Destiny, where it's several years. They can just milk it for 7 years, and everybody knew, since it's from EA, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not a big fan now. And so now that they have to go through and even revamp the game because of all this heat, it's just like, dude, that's going to severely hinder sales now. Everybody's already gun shy from Destiny, and then you throw the Battlefront 2 news in there. Now they're even more gun shy, and it's like, I mean, I'm not excited about it. I'm going to wait for it to come out and see what happens, just like I did Battlefront 2.
It looks cool, but right now I'm like sitting here thinking, I was like, oh yeah, I see how they're going to microtransactional make this, how to embed those microtransactions into it with, they showed the scene of the guy walking through all of the different armor suits that they can wear, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's the money sign, there's the money sign, there's the money sign, the little additional parts that you can put on, it's bad. I guess another little tidbit of news is I've been hearing inklings of Borderlands 3 possibly making an appearance at E3 this year. I'm not going to try to jump on the hype train just yet, because me personally, that's going to be a game that I'm probably going to dive into big time on, and I'm hoping Hollywood will jump into it too, because it was a great game, and it was so much fun playing Borderlands 1 and 2, and even the prequel. The prequel was a little weird, and I played it, but I'm down to jump on Borderlands at any time. That's a fun game. So I've been hearing little inklings and little rumors about it, but nothing hardcore, nothing serious yet.
So hope it's not in space. I mean, take stuff out of space.
The prequel was the one to do that because of that, and it made it rough. I mean, heck, it at times when I first played it, because it was one of the first games that I played on my 4K TV, and playing it and having the physics in it where you're jumping different and floating more, it actually kind of made me a little sick. I got a little motion sick playing it. So I was like, whoa, it's just a little too much there. Yeah. So I went back to Borderlands 2 and played it through.
It was still good, but it wasn't as good as... I think the original one was one of the best ones. Of course, I got that one when it was... all the expansions were out for it, so I got to buy everything at once, and me and Rev just slammed through it. I mean, we dominated. We mastered it. But anyway, let's get into a little 16-bit era news here. Or, well, not even news, just a little retrospective, because... I mean, dude, this is by far one of my favorite consoles of all time is the Super Nintendo. And if you can't tell, we do most of our retrospectives on here, and a lot of them are NES games. And I'm not necessarily a fanboy per se, although I do like Nintendo, but it's just kind of that's what we grew up playing. So that's kind of that's what we get used to. But you were more of you had Sega. You were the first one that I knew that had a Sega, and then a Sega CD and a 32X and all that stuff. So it was a good mix, because I had the Super NES and you had the Sega and stuff. But you didn't. I obviously got a Nintendo first, and so that was in '86 or something. I remember getting it. I was so young. And
somebody was quite that because it wasn't even released yet. Then in '86, the Super
regular Nintendo. No, regular Nintendo.
Oh, regular Nintendo. I'm sorry, brain.
Yeah,
you have to forgive me still.
Regular Nintendo in '86. I remember getting it. I was at home in that old little house I had across from the school. And they brought it home. My parents did, and then like it was like date night or something for them. So they brought it home. Like, oh, here's your Nintendo. Bye. And now we're going on a date. Like some little 16-year-old girl babysitting me or whatever. Like, hey, can you hook this up? And you're like, I don't know how to do it. So I just sit there and look at the box for 3 hours, which
That's
when
funny.
you're 6 years old, it's like an eternity. And so they finally hooked it up and got into Mario, and of course Mario and Duck Hunt, it came with it. Zelda was my second game, and so that was a lot of fun. But anyway, I don't remember playing Nintendo with you. Did you have one?
I got it. I got my Nintendo in Christmas of '87, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sitting there trying to calculate it up. I lived in Brandon at the time. I wasn't in Forest. I lived in Brandon for a good little while. My dad was working at a bank there. He's president of a bank there. That's the reason why we moved there. I remember the first house that I lived in, because I actually lived in 2 houses in Brandon when we were here. The first house I lived in, my next door neighbor had a Nintendo, and that's where I played Excite Bike. So I got some memories of Excite Bike there. And then I finally got my own Nintendo, and I like I said, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was December of '87. Because I played it for a solid year or more before I moved to Forest. I moved to Forest in August of '89 because Matthew was born in 1990, and that's my little brother. And so I remember that because he was kind of the thing that happened to me first when we first moved to Forest. So that's actually and if I'm not mistaken, that was either the 3rd or 4th time we had actually lived in Forest at that point. So we moved around a lot. We moved around a lot before my little brother was born, and we pretty much stayed in Forest once he was born. So,
yeah, I remember getting The Legend of Zelda. I think was my second game, and then we moved to the neighborhood that you lived in, or I lived in there first, but the new neighborhood when my cousin was there, Randy. And I would go over there, and they had all these games, Contra, Mega Man. That's where I first found Mega Man.
Yeah.
And you've seen her jumping and all this. You're like, what is this guy, a robot? Is he a regular man? It's like, I don't know. Whatever. With him, it looks like no, he's a robot. So why's the cover? He has he's holding a gun. He looks like a regular guy. It looks like one of y'all drew it on there, too. But so anyway, but that was a fun thing. But, we were real young. I mean, we're like 8 years old. And then 91, I believe, when the Super Nintendo came out.
Yep.
And I remember waiting for that thing, man. Oh my gosh, I was waiting so hard because we had Nintendo Power. Y'all knew it was coming out, and they had at Walmart. It was $200. I remember, and it came with Mario World.
Yeah. $199.99.
Yep. And they had it at Walmart. And man, when I first played that thing, I was in heaven, dude. I was like, oh my gosh.
And if I'm not mistaken, you got that for your birthday in 91 because it actually released in August 23rd, 91, and your birthday's in September. So if I'm not mistaken, you got that for your birthday. Because I remember seeing you. One of the it's not a fondest memory, but it's one of the funny memories that I had. I remember coming over to your house, and this was after you'd gotten it, and I look over at your trash can, and you put your Super Nintendo box in the trash can, and I'm like, dude, why are you throwing that away? You got to keep your box, man. You got to keep it forever.
Everybody thought that was just packaging, man. Because Sega came with a plastic case, and then on the Nintendo stuff came with cardboard, and it's
cardboard box
this is
and
just
styrofoam.
Packaging. You don't need this. But no, I didn't get it for my birthday. I got it. I remember preparing before it came out, and I was selling all my old NES games. And I was like, okay, that black. Everybody had it. It was that black Nintendo case, the gold buckle. You pushed it, and it popped open. I don't know. It held like 20 games or something. But I had all those games in there. You popped it open, you saw the tops. And it's like it had the labels on there, end labels and whatnot. And then selling all of them, he'd put an ad in the paper or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sell this game. I'm going to have, like, if I sell them, they're worth like $50. I didn't know. $20 to $40 we probably sold each one for. And I'm like, okay, all I need is $200 and I'm good. And so I got more than 10, so I'll get it. And I was like, I'm going to have like $150 left over. Well, then we started selling them, and then my mom was keeping all the money. And it's like, wait, what are you doing? Well, we bought them. We're going to keep the money. I said, well, I'm saving it for the Super Nintendo, That was the whole reason I'm trying to sell them. Mm-hmm. What are you doing, And so she's like, no, I'll buy it. We're going to buy it. I just want to, I'm keeping it. I said, okay. So then we went and bought it after I got to $200 or whatever. And so, but I didn't get any extra, is all I'm saying. But got it. And then I think the first game I got for Christmas was F-Zero. And I'd never heard about it. And and a lot of people like F-Zero. They really rave about it, and I'm not a real big fan of it.
It's an okay game.
Because, there's like 4 characters you can get, and they all have various abilities and whatnot. Which one was did you remember which one was your favorite one?
Man, I'm going to have to look it up to see which one was my favorite, because I don't remember it. I think it was like, because they were blue and red, and I forget what the other colors were.
Yeah, green and yellow. So yellow was real fast.
I think either the blue or the red was my favorite. I'll tell you in a minute once I see it. It's one of those memory things.
So I'm going to completely by memory. The blue guy was Captain something. I was going to say Falco, but I think that's just Star Fox.
Oh!
Captain Falco.
If I'm not mistaken, the F-Zero blue guy is actually in Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, he is.
So, yes, that was my favorite one, because I remember actually getting to play with him in Super Smash Brothers and go, oh, man, I remember him from F-Zero. I used to play with him all the time. So, yes, that was the one.
So, it's the red guy I kind of liked at first. I think it's just because I liked his vehicle. And then but I didn't like the green guy. He was an alien. And so, but he had the toughest car, and that's the only way I could get to certain parts. And there's one stage that, it's just, again, all by memory, and it's all before internet and all this. So, you had to get the yellow car. There's one part later on. I don't even remember how the thing goes. You finish the first circuit, you get to another one. And at the first race, you get gold in like the first 4 races or something. So then it moves you to the next circuit or whatever. But at some point, you go around this curve, and then there's a big jump. And if you don't have a speed boost, you can't get over that jump unless you have the yellow car, which is the fastest one.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you got around once, it's easy to save your boost for that one. But you don't get a boost at first. You have to complete a lap before you get a boost.
Yep.
And man, it was that game. It's pretty tough at first, but I played it a lot, so I can't sit here and say I didn't like it necessarily, but I wasn't a fan of it. They had it come out for Super NES. For Nintendo 64 as well, and I didn't get it. Was it Nintendo 64, and then they had a GameCube version I didn't get either.
Yeah, they had they had, God, I didn't realize they had this many games, but they have F-Zero, it's called BSF Zero Grand Prix, BSF Zero Grand Prix 2, F-Zero X, F-Zero X Expansion Kit, Maximum Velocity, GX, AX, GP Legend, Climax. That's all the way to 2004. They're putting games out. I did not know that
BS is a good title for it. But like I said, I don't want to hate on it, because this really is a good game. They put a lot of time to it. I'm not a racing game fan too much, but anyway, that was actually my second game. Third game was Final Fight, and yes. So I remember that one very well, because they had an arcade version at Walmart. And then I got the game, like, oh, well, yeah, I got that for Christmas. And I was like, oh, yes, I can't wait to go play it. And I turn it on, and there is no guy. And everybody's like, oh, my gosh, that was my favorite character to play in the arcade. Mm-hmm. And he's not even on that one.
Yep.
So they ended up re-releasing it later with a guy called Final Fight Guy. But that's very rare. It's expensive now. That one was pretty fun. You got Cody and you got Haggard, who's Haggard's a wrestler. And he was in another game.
Haggard.
What game was he in? He was a fighting game. I can't remember. You might have to look it up.
That's what I'm trying to look at, because I'm like...
It was a fighting game.
Muscle Bomber?
What is it?
Muscle Bomber?
I don't even know. I've never heard of that game. But anyway, I thought he was in some fighting game or something.
Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. That's one you had. You showed me that one.
Yes, I had that terrible game.
No, it was awesome. It's not terrible. I love that game. It was so much fun.
I remember that, because it was a wrestling game.
Yeah, arcade wrestling.
Yep, it was awesome. I remember having that. Yeah, no, it was crappy, but it was fun too, because it's like you don't have any real wrestlers on it. Me and Hollywood were big wrestling fans back in the day, and that's why I got it, because I was like, oh man, it's a wrestling game. I got to get a wrestling game. And then I get it, and I'm like, where's Hulk Hogan? So it's just kind of one of those things for me. There's no Hulk Hogan. There's no Ultimate Warrior. There's no Macho Man.
Monday Night Raw. It was Saturday Night Slam Masters. Hulk don't fight on Saturday. His day off, man.
So, but yeah, that's he was in that. He was called Muscle Bomber in the
Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Saturday Night Slam Masters.
Oh, I thought you were saying that's a game.
Well, I was looking up, because I looked up Mike Haggard. And it had Mike Haggard, Final Fight, and Muscle Bomber character. And so it's actually, when you click on Muscle Bomber, it takes you right to the Saturday Night Slam Masters. So that was his character that he played in Saturday Night Slam Masters, is what I'm assuming by the linkage there.
So then I remember getting ActRaiser, man. And ActRaiser is a very, very unique game. There's none other like it still to this day that I can think of. It's a side-scrolling hack and slash kind of, but it has a Sim City type of effect to it. When you after you start the game, you hack and slash, and then you're like a little angel, and you are like a god, and like saying, okay, here the people will come to you and ask you for, if they got a problem or whatever, and you move them to fight the demons off. They need your help. Once you clear the land of demons, the big demon pops up. You got to go in there and kill that one.
I remember that. Just a real quick correction for me. His name was not Muscle Bomber. Muscle Bomber was the name of the Japanese version of Saturday Night Slam Masters. Mike was actually Mike Macho Haggard in that. So just wanted to correct that real quick since I saw those corrections.
Yeah, I remember that on ActRaiser, where you go to the desert and then you can make it rain and wash the sand away, and you get some music or something from like the desert or from somewhere. I think it's the desert. I can't remember which one it is. And like in another world, they're sad, so you introduce music to them, and they're so happy or whatever. And it was pretty cool. That was a very interesting game. And then
I like the cover art on it. The cover art on it was pretty neat because it has ActRaiser in this really nice font. A little symbol behind it, and then lightning coming down on the plains above some pyramids. It looked kind of neat, and I remember that cover. And as I look at it, it's pretty neat. So,
but anyway, man, yeah, that was cool. They came off ActRaiser 2, and it's all hack and slash side scroller or whatever, and it's very difficult. I played it. I think I probably rented it from Video Visions, and then it's like, it's too tough. I don't got time to try to figure this one out. But, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and list every single game I had. I just want to list a couple of memories. I mean, I remember Final Fantasy IV. We already talked about how I got that one. And then Final Fantasy VI is still my favorite game. And I remember saving up and going to the store. Yeah. And it was $80. People don't believe it. It was. Because I saved up $60, went to the store, and didn't have enough money. And my grandmother had to give me $20 to get it. And it's my favorite game to this day. It
was the most expensive game that we had ever hunted down.
But anyway, and so you really think about those games. I remember going back and finishing Final Fantasy VI, and not going back and finish it, but finishing it for the first time. And then, it gives you that whole long ending sequence, and if you miss a character, it just kind of goes gray and talks about the character. And then it, so I'm like, oh man, he died, I guess. I don't know what's going on. Come to find out in a strategy guide that you can go back and get every single character. And I think we were probably in Jackson or something, went to Barnes & Noble. I was like, oh, there's a Final Fantasy strategy guide. And I got it and started reading through it. I was like, what? You can go find these guys? So, man, I went back and tore through the game and found everybody and all this. It was just so much fun to go back and redo it. And that's still one I'll go revisit every so often.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's a great game. It's got a great story to it. I love that story.
So what's your experience, man? What do you know?
So just sitting there talking about it, I have all these memories start coming flashing back. Of course, in the 16-bit era, I'm actually going to jump over to the Sega side just because I have quite a good bit of memories on that. I remember getting I don't remember when I got my Sega Genesis. I just remember getting it. And I know I got it for Christmas because I got almost every single system that I got at Christmas. That was the thing. I got it. I got my parents to get it to me, get it for me for Christmas, because that way I could get it at Christmas, get a bunch of games, and then I'd be set for at least quite a while because it took time playing games. So one game that I remember very fondly was Sonic the Hedgehog. That was definitely one of the first games I got. It actually came with the system. The Genesis came with Sonic the Hedgehog, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And I loved playing that game. I loved playing it. I just thought it was neat, thought it was interesting, and I thought it was just a nice change from Mario. Don't get me wrong, I love Mario. I think Mario's a great game. It's just nice to have something different. I always liked having something different, and that's why I went with the Genesis. It's because everybody's got a Nintendo. Everybody's starting to get Super Nintendos. Let me get a Genesis. I want to get a Genesis and be the first to have one. And it's just kind of funny since Genesis means beginning. It was just kind of funny because I was definitely the first one that never to have one. I had one of the original, or the original Genesis, the one that had the red on it and everything.
Well, the original Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
There's another like Master System.
Yeah, the Genesis, not the Master System, because the Master System was their 8-bit version. But the Genesis, the one that I had, it said 16-bit across the top of it.
Blast processing.
Had the red, exactly. It had all of that stuff on there, just right there and everything. And I remember when I first got it, I get the controller, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this controller's so weird, because you have Nintendo with 2 buttons and a directional pad and the start select in the middle. And then you have Super Nintendo, the directional pad, the 4 buttons, and the 2 bumpers now. Well, Sega Genesis said, oh, no. We can do it better. We're going to have 3 buttons, the directional pad, and instead of putting the start select in the middle, we're going to put it above the buttons.
Yeah.
It was the weirdest feeling controller that I've ever held. It's just weird. And some of the newer versions of the Genesis actually had 6 buttons on it. I forgot that the newer ones that were coming out, like the Gen 2s, they were 6-button controllers. So it's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing with all these buttons? It's just crazy, to see that. So, but they didn't have bumper buttons on them either. The Genesis didn't. I think that you might I think you started seeing the bumpers for the Genesis on the Sega Saturn, because with the Sega CD and the 32X, it used everything that was right there with the Genesis. So
I don't even remember the Saturn controller. I do remember it now. Yeah,
I vaguely remember it because it's just I had it for such a short time. Yeah, it basically looked like a Genesis.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It was a 6-button Genesis controller, but I think they added the bumper buttons, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to look that up to verify. But I remember getting it and playing the mess out of Sonic, and just having a blast with it. Dr. Wily was always a fun villain, because he didn't look like a villain. He looked like a happy, chubby guy in this floating little orb that he flew around in, that sometimes had a drill on the front of it, sometimes had other attachments and everything, and just fighting it. And I thought that was funny, because you got the same name character in other games from the Nintendo side. I need to verify that it was Dr. Wily, but I'm pretty sure it was. For
Eggman.
Sonic.
No, it's Eggman, and then his name was Eggman. Then it was Dr. Robotnik. There's like two
Dr.
different
Robotnik.
things
That's
for him.
what it was. It's Dr. Robotnik. Dr. Wily. I'm sorry, I get stuck on Dr. Wily for some reason, and you'll hear me say that fairly often. Yeah, Dr. Robotnik.
He calls it every doctor, Dr. Wily.
Yeah.
So the thing I remember, so first of all, Nintendo came out, Sega came out a year or two before Super Nintendo, so they just added the 1 button, which actually, if you just take select, so it's A, B, and C. It was very weird, and it starts at the top of it. So we're like, oh, that's a lot. Well, then Super Nintendo came out, and it had the 6 button plus the start and select, and the directional pad, the shoulder pads, So Nintendo's always been pretty innovative with their controllers. I didn't mind the N64 controller. A lot of people hate it. I do still think the GameCube controller was one of the better ones. It just feels real good in your hand. But the one thing I remember about Street Fighter, and I did have Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That was the one that I got. They put so Street Fighter, you have weak punch, weak kick, mid punch, strong kick, strong punch. And the shoulder buttons were the strong kick and punch. R was the kick, L was the punch. So you go in for attack, you do strong punches all the time. I don't know anybody that fights in Street Fighter to this day that uses the weak ones, unless you're throwing a Hadouken, then you throw a middle one.
Yeah.
And so nobody uses that to this day. Or even doing a uppercut, you do the mid button. Sega, you had A, B, so you got A, B, and C is all you got. So it did come out for Sega too. So A, B, and C is like weak punch, middle punch, and strong punch for the C. Do you remember how you make it a kick?
I think it was down. You would hold down to do it, or you would hold forward to do it. It was one of the combinations.
No, down is ducks. Forward moves you straight. You have to push start, and then it switches to A, B, and
That's right.
A, B, and C to the kick. So you push start, and now you got this kick combos, weak, medium. And so it's just like so kind of intrusive. I don't even know the word. It's like I'm fighting. I want to do a kick real quick. I want to do a punch. If somebody's the Hadouken and the Dragon Punch, that's something you need to do like at a moment's notice. I don't have time to push start and then do it. So that kind of, everybody talks about Mortal Kombat hurting the Nintendo, and it did when it came out with none of the blood and stuff. But Sega released a Mortal Kombat with the blood, and I remember Acclaim actually came to Nintendo and said, "You want us to release this clean version? Are you sure you want to do that?" And they were like, "Yeah, we want you to do it." And so they did, and that Mortal Kombat sold from Sega 4-1 to the Super Nintendo version, and there was a big court case on violence on video games, and that's where they got the ESRB that came from. And anyway, some people say that Nintendo started this whole violence in video games ruse just to get back at Sega somehow, but it ended up coming back. They released Mortal Kombat 2 on Super Nintendo with the blood, and so then they kind of, that one did outsell that version. That one did outsell the Sega version.
So I remember something about those two, and something that actually helped me. Sega, when they actually released those games, they actually released an arcade-style controller for those games, too, to kind of help you with the conundrum of having to press another button to access those kicks and everything. Because I remember actually getting one of those arcade sticks because I remember arguing with my mom, saying, "Hey, I can't play the game very well without this arcade stick. I gotta have this when I buy the game." And so I was able to get one of those. So that was something that I remembered off of that. And that's why I have a vague memory of the pressing the start button to switch them, because I had that pad there, so I didn't have to fight with trying to switch it and all that.
One has a reset and power button on the controller for the Super Nintendo. Did that actually reset and power off the Super Nintendo? I don't know.
I never had one like that.
Yeah, that was the advanced. That was the stick that had the advanced stick. I'm pretty sure it did not.
Yeah,
because it looked like a Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I had the advanced stick for the Genesis. So
let's see. Yeah, Super Nintendo Advantage had everything. Freddie had this one. Freddie Woods. He had all this crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, he had all of the crazy stuff.
And I don't think it actually turned the Nintendo on and off. I think it's just for looks. But yeah, I think it's just for looks. I don't want to sit here and look it up until we know for sure. We'll get back to you guys about that one.
Yeah. So something else that was cool too.
Before you go on, unless you're going to talk about, I just wanted to mention something about Sonic, because I remember you first got it, and I meant to mention that right after you said that. But Sonic. Every time I play Sonic, I remember the cartridge yours had not for resale on it, because that's what it came out with the Genesis. And so anyway, we'd go over there. I remember hearing all this hype about Sonic, all these commercials and blah, blah, blah. And I remember going over there and putting Sonic on. And so, okay, let's play this Sonic game. And then you start it. And you've heard me talk about it. The controls are super slippery. I mean, you push straight and you want to turn back around. It's going to take him, a second or so to kind of stop. And, let me go back. And turn back around. And if you get any momentum at all. And then he's going so fast to the stage, you can't even really see what's going on. You're just like, okay, I guess this is the part of the game. And so I was like kind of disappointed in it. I'm not a Sonic fan at all. I mean, people love Sonic and they love those old ones, but I am not a Sonic fan.
See, that's what I liked about Sonic, was kind of having that loose control. I actually liked the loose control and got pretty good with it. Because it was just fun to, you take off running and they're like, oh, I missed something, and you'd see Sonic kind of skid, it was kind of, it had that neat effect there. And so I always liked that. And then, of course, you would ball up and then just shoot through the stage if you wanted to as quick as possible. I remember doing that. I enjoyed that. I actually loved Sonic. And I didn't realize that it was actually, because, I would read the magazines and everything, but I also mainly read Nintendo Power. I didn't read much others that covered the Sega and everything. And I didn't realize that it received widespread critical acclaim as one of the greatest games ever made. Like, I'm reading that here. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of get it because I know how much I loved it. I played Sonic all the way up through Sonic CD when they had it on the Sega CD. I think I even got a version of. I think they even put out a version of Sonic on the Sega Saturn and had it too. But basically, if there was a Sonic game, I picked it up because I even had a Game Gear. I was head first into the Sega stuff. I loved this. I loved the Sega systems.
Yeah, you did. I remember the Game Gear. Now that's the first place I played that. But yeah, Sonic. I can get over the controls, but I was just kind of like. I mean, and people love it. Like I said, I played it to like stage 4. I finished stage 4 or something, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I mean, it kind of seemed like it was just kind of like, oh, let's see what happens next. And then never really kind of got into it after that. Sonic 2 came out. Like you said, you had all the Sonics. You had Sonic and Knuckles. Yep. Do you remember what was special about that?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
Man, I tell you what, man.
I'm telling you,
my guy that don't ask any questions is
my brain is fried.
I'm not going to help you if you just ask more questions. That would help you.
Yeah, questions are for losers.
Exactly, I told you. Sonic and Knuckles had a thing where you can play a Sonic game on the top of it. You put a Sonic game on the top of it. Sonic 1, for example, on top of that game was the black cartridge. And you could put a Sonic game on the top of it.
That special cartridge, yeah.
Yeah, you could play Knuckles through the regular Sonics.
Yeah, but I remember that now. I just didn't remember off the top of my head.
No, I'm going completely off my head, man. That's my style, dude. I'm still into it, man. I mean, I've been playing it forever. I've been doing it for, my whole life, man. Over 30 years. I've been playing video games and just staying with them. I liked them for a long time. It's my way to kind of blow off steam or whatever and still stick with them. But kind of got back into collecting once I kind of realized, like, oh, yeah, I forgot about these games. Let me go back and do it. So I've got a lot of knowledge I remember pulled up from that. A lot of people just don't really do that. But anyway, man, Sega CD came out, and everybody thought that was going to be the bomb. And you had Sewer Shark. What games did you have for that? I know you had Sewer Shark.
I had Sewer Shark. I had Dragon's Lair. What else did I have on that
Did you have Double Switch, or was that John Dre? I can't remember.
I don't think I had Double Switch.
I think that was John Dre.
I only had like a few games on that because in our area they were hard to get. And so I only had a few on there.
Yeah. I think Dre had Double Switch. It had Corey Haim. It's just like I remember that Corey Haim was like all the rage, dude, back in early 90s. Mm-hmm. And he's like the coolest kid in the world.
Give me a second. I'm looking them up. And I can tell you which games I had.
Okay.
I just don't remember. I had.
But I know you got not to get too far off the subject, but you had you got the Super Scope. You told me it again today that I have the Super Scope. I didn't.
You had the Super Scope. I swear you had the Super Scope. You had because I remember you bought it in the box. I never bought the Super Scope because I never bought it. I remember playing it at your house.
I played it at your house. I remember it specifically.
Yeah, this is probably gonna be the argument that we have that goes down forever. I never bought the Super Scope because I never could find a Super Nintendo with Super Scope. I remember
you might not have bought it, but we borrowed it from somebody then because I never bought it. I remember playing it at your house. I remember playing it at my house too, but I didn't buy it. I know I didn't buy it. I know I can tell you every game I bought, and I'm square. I know you bought the Menacer at one point for Sega.
Yeah,
the gun for Sega.
Yeah, I did get the gun for Sega. Let's see. I had Afterburner 3. I vaguely remember that one.
For the Sega CD?
Yeah.
I remember you bought Golden Axe. And this wasn't for Sega CD, but we was over there playing. I was like, dude, this game is sick. And you were kind of like, I'm just not... I could tell you just weren't really into it because you wanted your mom to take it back like that day. Mm-hmm. And I think she did. You went back and took it back. You're like, I'm going to take it back. I was like, man, no, it's awesome. Look at this. I loved it. Yeah, and that's still one I like to kind of run through every so often on the 360 collection, Sega collection. But you took it back. I don't remember what you got after that. But
I got a game because I remember the front cover of this. I got a game called Brutal Paws of Fury for the Sega CD.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I got that. I thought it was a funny looking game because of the characters on there. And like I said, I just didn't have a chance to buy a ton of games, so anything I found that I thought looked interesting, I got it. Let's see. No, I wanted to get it, but it was the cliffhanger. It was basically a game on the movie.
I remember that.
I wanted it, but I didn't get it.
It's like terrible, though. It's like one of the worst games ever made. But just because it had Sylvester Stallone, it looked real, too. That's what the thing was. Kind of when graphics first hit the market. It's like, oh, all it is just a 16-bit video recording. Quick Draw McGraw, all that kind of stuff was supposed to be super cool.
I had Dragon's Lair. That was a lot of fun. I mentioned that one already. Got the Earthworm Jim on it. I did get that because I liked Earthworm Jim. I thought that was an awesome game. Echo the Dolphin. I probably got a couple of the sports games on it because I remember I liked playing sports games. Probably more of the hockey because I like the hockey ones.
Brandon had a game that I don't hear anything about it. nobody says anything about it. And, Snatcher is a big one on Sega CD. Yeah. And for the longest time, I thought this was Snatcher, but it's not. It's called Rise of the Dragon on Sega CD.
I remember that game. I remember you and him playing that, and I remember watching y'all play it. Okay. But I never played it.
So, Rise of the Dragon, you had to start, you're like a detective or something, and you start off, it's a click and point. So I got to get my gun as a detective, move my pillow out, I get a gun, you got to get bullets out or whatever, and you go outside and you meet somebody. It's like an RPG. And that's all I remember about it is the very first of it. And I remember going out it came out in 1990. I remember it's an adventure game. And it's also on like the DOS and Macintosh, later remade for the Sega CD. So I don't know when it came out for Sega CD, but I guess it initially released in 1990. But it says 1992 is when it came out. But man, that's a good game. I think it's cheap to get too. I mean, I don't know how good it is. It's awesome back in the day because it's like a computer game. All those computer games like King's Quest and what's the other Sierra game I'm thinking about? Police Quest. Stuff like that, or all these click and point games. Yep. And so then you got that at home on Sega. Well, you can get it. I didn't have a computer. I was never a PC gamer, except for EverQuest and WoW. But it was amazing that you could have that at home.
Another game I got was Mickey Mania. I don't know if you remember that one.
I remember the game. I don't remember you having it. But
it was a Mickey Mouse game. I probably had it for like no time at all because I was like, oh, let me play a Mickey game. I remember getting NBA Jam on the Sega CD.
Oh, that was such a good game. Why didn't they have that on the NES Mini, Super NES Mini? I can't believe they didn't have that.
I know, I'm shocked about that.
They don't have a lot of two-player games on there. I mean, they put Secret of Men on there because, that was the big, it's an RPG that's two players. And I never played it with two players, so I can't really talk about how fun it is, but it just never appealed to me to do that.
I had Pitfall. I realized
I remember Pitfall.
Had more games than I realized sitting here on that thing.
But what were we talking about? Oh, yeah, Super NES Mini and NBA Jam. NBA Jam, they had NBA Jam Tournament Edition. It just had all these different crazy things, codes you could put in and make it so much fun. It's just arcades, kind of like NFL Blitz and all this. These are fun games.
Such a blast.
So much fun. But then we got the nail in the coffin for the 16-bit. And it was that mighty 3DO that came out.
Oh, yes.
And I had to get it. And the 3DO was going down when I asked for it for Christmas. And then I remember reading in the Nintendo Powers or whatever. It wasn't Nintendo Powers. It was like Game Pros or Electronic Game Monthly and PlayStation's got all this new stuff coming out. But I didn't see anything for 3DO. And even that young, I was like, this system's dying. And I asked for it for Christmas. But it was so much fun, man. Return Fire. I remember. It was a great game. I remember
playing that game for a while.
They need to revamp that game. So all it is it's a two-player game. So you got a green team and a brown team. It's a military game. You've seen it on in the Army now. Pauly Shore's playing at the beginning.
Yeah.
So you got so many tanks. You got like 3 tanks. You got 3 helicopters. You got 3 missile trucks that drive around. They can lay landmines too. And you have like 8 Jeeps or something like that, or maybe unlimited Jeeps. No, you don't have unlimited Jeeps because you got to lose somehow. So it's like 8 Jeeps or something. I don't remember the exact number of Jeeps, but you got so many fortresses and stuff. You don't set them up; the game does it for you. So the brown and the green. So you got to find a flag in one of these barricaded walls up and with shooters on it, and they got helicopters coming at you and all this kind of stuff. And you can just, as fast as you want to do it, you can get a helicopter and fly over and try to just locate the flag right away. And if you you can get your little Jeep. You have to be in the Jeep to pick up the flag. That's the big thing. So you got to clear a path to get your Jeep to go up there and get it. So if if you're a green team, and the brown team is getting their Jeep, you have a choice. Do I need to go keep looking for their flag or go after their Jeep? It's a crazy thing. I don't remember. Maybe I don't know if you run out of Jeeps or not. I can't remember. I think you do. But if you get that flag back, it's over, and that other person wins. I mean, just think how much fun that would be online, or even if you can build your own bases or something. So that was a great game. That was on PlayStation too. You can still get it on PlayStation. You can still get it on 3DO if you got a 3DO. But that was one of the best ones. And I got Wolfenstein on 3DO too. And I liked that version. Killing Time, a lot of these fun type of game shooters that were realistic looking. Killing Time, well, I don't like it that much. It looked good, but it didn't really play good.
So another game that I remember on the Genesis, and you're going to laugh because I actually still have it.
Uh-oh.
Toe Jam and Earl Battle on Planet Funkatron.
Yeah, Battle on Planet what?
Funkatron.
Okay.
I know, it probably says like, it sounds like I said something
bad.
else, but it says it's funk. You know, F-U-N-K, funk.
Yeah. Funkatron.
And it was so much fun because ToeJam and Earl were rude, you know, they
Crude
fart,
dudes.
yeah, they just all kinds of, it's hilarious. They're two aliens,
Rude,
just
crude
had a
dudes.
blast. I remember playing it and having so much fun with that game and laughing so hard at it because I thought it was just so funny to have that. You know, I mean, granted, you know, we had Mortal Kombat and all this too, but to have this guy, these two aliens running around doing that kind of stuff was just, yeah, I thought it was hilarious. That was a fun game for back in the day. And my little brother would just laugh at it every time I played it. So, it was, you know, that's another one of those good memory games.
So you got a little red guy. He's got like 3 legs.
Yep.
And you got a big fat guy. Mm-hmm. He's like a starfish, basically. I don't know what he does. ToeJam and Earl. It's actually...
The funny thing about it is they dressed like rappers because ToeJam, he's the 3-legged red alien. He has basically a Flavor Flav chain on.
Oh, yeah.
And a backwards hat. And then Earl would always have sunglasses on, and he didn't wear a shirt, and he just had pants on. He basically almost looks like, he basically predated Patrick from SpongeBob and from SpongeBob SquarePants. And that's what he roughly looks like. But, you know, it makes you think of, especially the time, you know, because you had Tupac and Biggie Smalls out at that time. That's basically kind of what they look like, you know, at that point.
Yeah, so it was an attitude era. I mean, they had all the attitude, and they threw jars at people. So that's what they were on a space. Some tourists had visited their planet, crashed on their planet, and in their spaceship, and so all the tourists had to you know, run all over the world or whatever planet they're on. So you had to go find them. That was the whole goal of the game. Me and you didn't even know that because we didn't care. It was so much fun to just play anyway and walk around and see all the stuff. But you're supposed to like rattle the trees or whatever, and they'll jump out and sometimes take a picture of you and blind you.
Yep.
But you got to throw jars at them, and it captures them. And then at the end of the stage, you release them all, and you got to capture all the humans or whatever. But one thing that I remember very, very well about that game was the little Play-Doh gooey jelly thing that you jumped on, pink thing, remember?
Yes,
and you had to jump, and you could keep jumping on it, and it got higher and higher, and you could do flips. So that's all we would do for hours, man.
We made ToeJam would do all these crazy flips and everything.
And they'd land. If you landed on your stomach, it'd kind of mess it up. But you get like points and stuff for doing this. I mean, it was like I remember you had that game, and that's the first time I played it. And I was like, this game is just so. It was so wacky. It was like one of those games where I'm like, I don't know how fun this really is, but man, I'm like so addicted to just playing it.
Yeah,
it's just like so much fun to play. It's actually a second in a series.
It's the second game of it.
And the first one is more like a strategy, I think. I never played the first one. I don't know anything about it.
I only played the it's Panic on Funkatron, not Battle on Funkatron.
So do you know the good news about that game?
What's the good news about that game?
What? Did you just ask a question?
I'm going to ask a question.
Because that's a very important. That is a very important game that is now being released on the Nintendo Switch, remade.
Is it really? That's awesome, man. I'm going to have to get a Switch just for that game.
I know, dude. That is crazy, man.
I honestly did not know that was getting re-released on the Switch. Because I know the Switch is re-releasing a lot of old games and it's something big coming up. But, you know, with that getting re-released, dude, I might have to go hunker down and stash some money aside and go buy a Switch just for that.
The Switch is looking... I tweeted about it, man. The Switch is looking awesome. I mean, I'm just
The Switch really is. Well, did you see what... Okay, so I know I didn't say news in the beginning, but now that we've talked about the Switch, I just want to announce it real quick. They have a thing coming out called Labo, where with the Switch, basically, you go into the game and you can create these different attachments for your Switch, like a piano, and they ship it to you in a cardboard, and you take it out like flat pieces of cardboard. You take it out and build it, then stick your Switch in it, and then you can play the piano.
I have no idea. What do you mean?
It's called Labo. Piano? Yeah. Okay. So look it up real quick. It's if I'm saying it right, because I just saw it real quick. It's called Labo. It's called Nintendo Switch Labo. Like, if you look that up, it should come up. And because, like I said, I haven't done any news or anything.
A bunch of awesome do-it-yourself cardboard toys for the Switch.
It's got all kinds. You could do all kinds of things with it. You could come up with your own stuff.
Plays build the piano? Piano.
Yeah, that's what it looked like in the advertisement that I watched. It's Nintendo. It's Nintendo.
Oh my gosh, they are doing it again. That's crazy.
You see awesome.
It? I see it. I don't know what it is. I mean, I see what you're talking about. I mean, the first thing that pops up is Nintendo's making a bunch of awesome do-it-yourself cardboard toys for the Switch.
Yeah, and it's called Nintendo Labo, Labo. Yeah. And it's all powered by the Nintendo Switch because they have slots where for different things, like they have a fishing pole where the Switch, the actual game part of it sits in like a little cardboard dock that's made, and then you build an actual fishing pole with a string that attaches to the dock that the Switch sits in. The little Joy-Con controller plugs into the back of the cardboard fishing reel, and now you can play a fishing game on the Switch.
So when you say play the piano, it's like a thing that you can play on the Switch. Yeah. It's not like a little piano, like a cardboard thing that somehow plays.
It's a cardboard thing
of the Switch.
It's a cardboard thing, and now you like the screen of the Switch sits in front of the keys, so that's like where your music is.
Okay, that's
cool. I don't know if it's music that you play or if it's a game that goes along with it because I didn't see any details into it. But I just saw that because that was like one of the first pieces.
I see the piano.
It's really neat. It's a really cool creative idea. Nintendo's very creative on that. So like. If you think you might want to get a Switch, this is a great time to get it because doing that kind of thing is really great, and they allow you to come up with stuff.
Yeah,
at least that was my interpretation from it being a DIY Creations and from what it looked like on the screen. It might not be you come up with things, but they have stuff for it. But it just looked really neat, and you be able to do those controllers. I mean, you got to think about it. If you're able to do that kind of stuff. It's low-cost entry into gaming. You know, you buy a Switch, and then with Labo, you're getting these little kits sent to you. I mean, there's a robot kit here that I see right across. So, I mean, you're looking at some pretty neat stuff with that, you know. And I hate to get off sidetracked on that, but when you said that ToeJam and Earl's coming out on that, I got all excited about that.
It is. I mean, they're crushing it. I mean, they got so many. One of the main things that I like, that one of my biggest draws for the Switch is they got a lot of. It's not 16-bit, but I'm just going to use it because everybody knows what I'm talking about. 16-bit-esque RPGs that keep coming out for it. All these independent RPGs. The I Am Setsuna sequel. I mean, I can't even name. I don't know. I can't remember. I remember seeing a video for things that come out for the Switch, and I'm like, well, dude, that is sick. But I remember ToeJam and I was meaning to tell you. Because every time I think of that one, I remember you got that one, and I remember that really well. So, but man, dude, that's the Nintendo's crushing it. I remember every headline with PlayStation 4, Sony is scared of the Nintendo Switch because they're just. I hope they make a comeback so bad that all the third parties want to go to them and so on and so forth, and just.
I think it would be awesome. It'd be great, you know.
Yeah.
And here's the news. I can't believe I missed that news. It's back in March of 2017 of this past year. So,
what the
ToeJam and Earl is coming to Nintendo Switch.
Okay. Yeah.
Hands on with the latest build. It looks different. It looks like a new one. It's called ToeJam and Earl Back in the Groove. The fourth installment, more than 25 years old. So, man, yeah, I'm down to do that. I'm down to jump on that. I mean, they basically say it feels like a loving reboot of what made the 91 original so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if it stays true to what it was,
it's made with love.
Fantastic game. I mean, it's going to be
made
fantastic.
With love. It's good.
So, okay, this question is exempt from me and asking questions. I just want to bring it up to listen to the podcast people. Well, you know me, I don't ask questions. The one that I asked earlier was a slip of the tongue. But this one is a serious question that I need to ask because we need to keep on bringing it up until somebody figures it out. Has anybody beat the challenge that you put out for them on the last podcast?
First of all, you've already asked a question. And it was fine. And when you go back to listen to this podcast, you're going to see how, man, when Kleer asked the question, it just came to life. There's so much color in the podcast now. But that doesn't count anyway after that podcast. You know, I said
this podcast doesn't count into
none of them do anymore. And nobody has responded, so I don't think there is one. I mean, I really don't.
That's fine.
I can't think of. I've listened to all of them before. I mean, I didn't listen to them before I said that or anything. Like, okay, let me go listen to them before I make this challenge. I want to do that. I want somebody to get a game.
I do too. I want somebody to get one.
And just, I mean, we'll constantly. I mean, who knows if I can think of something else to drop a cool contest, I will.
Yeah. But
yeah, we got the next contest that we want to do is for people that we got a lot of new people, and that's what we're trying to do with the NES Classic. Is to get a lot of people, and there's people that have listened. Hey, whoever that is in Sweden that's listening, you listened to this month. That's awesome. We hope you spread the news, Callie, out there too, blowing it up. I mean, seriously, it's awesome.
You know what? I'll make this even sweeter for the challenge. For the challenge to find a game. Hollywood's going to pay for the game, and if you're out of country, I will make sure it gets to you, and I'll pay for your shipping to get it there.
I mean, that's awesome, dude.
So if you're out of the country, I will make sure that it gets to you.
But here's the thing: I think it just doesn't exist. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, I'm not trying to.
If it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist.
If it doesn't exist, we'll figure something else out.
We'll figure something out. We'll get somebody it. But you got to at least let us know that you went through and say, I can't find it. And if we have 10 people that say they can't find it, we'll say pick a number between 1 and 10, and
No, I'm not doing that.
Something like that. Or we'll put you in a random drawing or something like that. Who knows? We'll figure out something, but we'll get somebody something there because I just wanted to see who. I
mean, we're going to do more contests, but I just wanted to see who could find that. But yeah, if you find it. But anyway, yeah, I don't want to leave out. I just want to give a shout out while we're doing this. Florida, our number one state, is killing with the downloads. That's awesome. That is definitely our number one state. Mississippi, of course, where we're both from, is our number 2. I figured that would be number 1.
I do too.
California, number 3. So shout out to you guys. Georgia, blowing it up. Arkansas, blowing it up. We got a few other states: Louisiana, New York, Alabama, hitting 2 downloads. Man, come on, Alabama, where you at? Y'all need to bring it back. I figured y'all would love this. Jersey has got a couple of listens, but I don't even know what that means, where those are from.
Yeah, no, I never got that on our analytics.
They must not can figure it out. But Sweden, of all the countries, Sweden blowing it up. I wish I could know how to say thank you in Sweden. But we'll figure it out. China's got a few, and then Brazil got the 1. If they got 1, I don't really. They probably like, what is this? Oh, this is terrible, and then just stop listening. But when they get more than 1, I get happy. So
I do too. It's nice. It's nice to see that y'all are out there listening to it. So
yeah. So just wanted to give you guys a little shout outs, and we appreciate the listens, and hope you guys are getting anything. If there's anything you guys would like to hear, let us know. And you can let us know on Facebook. You can let us know on Twitter, Holliwoodkole. I say it every time. I'll have it in the description. I got a Twitter. We also got an H&K. What is it? H&K video game? Is that the Twitter for H&K?
Yeah, I think it's just HnK. It's just HK because I couldn't put the ampersand. They wouldn't put the ampersand. I'm trying to make sure we put ampersand places there because you got the H&K guns. Don't want to cross any lines there. So,
but anyway. But yeah, all this will be in the description, all of the Twitters and whatnot.
And so we're also starting to pin our most recent podcast at the top of our Facebook page to make it easy for you to find it because we're trying to keep that news rolling. We decided to compress our news down to just sending out 2 posts a day because we don't want to flood you with everything. Yeah. We want to keep everything fresh and everything so that way you actually want to come look and see what we got. But we want to also make it easy for you to find our podcast. So we're going to pin it to the top. It'll be pinned to the top with a post that has all of our links in there as well, so you can find our links to everything. It's got a direct Google Play link in there, so if you click on it, it'll take you directly to Google Play to everything on that if you want to use Google Play. It'll have the Podbean one that'll take you directly to Podbean. Did we put that? I don't think we got the iTunes one in there. We'll get that iTunes one in there too, so that way your preferred choice, you can go in there and do it. What we really want from you is give us some follows on our Podbean. They're a great group. They're a great company that's hosting our podcast for us. And without them, we wouldn't be able to bring this podcast to you. So go in there and follow that because that actually helps us more than anything. So go in there and follow that, and we'd greatly appreciate that follow there. And remember, too, is if you follow on Podbean, you give us a follow in the contest for the SNES Mini, you get 20 likes. You get 20 entries. So go in and give us a follow on Podbean, and you get 20 entries, not 10. So that's the one that's got a difference, and we're only going to tell you that here on the podcast, so you got to listen to hear that.
Thank you guys for listening, and until next time.
Take it easy, guys.
Talk.